Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, wherever you are in the world, tuning in to another episode of the Voices of Value podcast. Thank you for coming back. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for being a supporter, a listener, man. I appreciate anybody and everybody, whether this is your first episode or your 140th episode listening to. We appreciate you. And like I say in every single episode, we're back again with another fire guest by the name of Max. I'm going to say your last name, and you're going to correct me if I'm wrong. Gondek.
Gondek, close enough, close enough.
Okay, gone. It was either gone or gone. Max Gondek. Thank you so
50-50. You
much.
got it, yeah.
I love it. I love it, man. Welcome onto the show. Thank you for making time today.
No, thanks for having me. I just, love chatting, love talking business about us, hearing about you, and looking forward to it.
I love it. I love it. And they'll hear an introduction before, if they're listening to this now, they've already heard an introduction by me of what you do. But would you mind sharing a little bit about your background, both, professional career and entrepreneur on the entrepreneurship side of things? And then we'll jump into the questions for today.
Cool. Sounds good. Well, my name is Max Gondek. I am half of GondekEDC, which is a small everyday carry business that I started about 3 years ago. And my wife has recently joined in with us. So it's really a wife-husband, kind of partnership. Personally, I am mid-30s. I have three beautiful daughters. Oldest is 7. I have twins who are 5. Been married for over 10 years. I live in Wisconsin, and my day job, which hopefully one day I can get rid of, is a engineer for a manufacturing company.
I love it. I love it. I love it, man. There's so much to dive into before we even dive into it. That's funny. You just gave me so much ammunition to ask so many questions. But instead, what we're going to do is we're going to dive back to 3-year-old you, 5-year-old you, 6-year-old you. When you were a kid, Max, like, what do you remember enjoying? What do you remember doing? What do you remember being like your daily activities when you got out of school? Like, talk to us about childhood, Max.
Okay, so if we go like way back, I'm thinking like 5-ish, like those memories you first start, like I got my first Sega, Sonic 2, I think was the first game. But kind of what blends more into what I do now and what I really love to do is I was that Lego kid. I had that humongous bucket of Legos. I'd buy a set, or probably my parents would buy me a set. I would build it, I would destroy it, it would go into the bucket of all the Legos, and then it was just kind of freestyling, making whatever. I used to actually, I'd build with my mom all the time. We try to build I think we built like McDonald's once, the store
Wow.
and like the inside. So actually my first like, hey, what do you want to be when you grow up? I wanted to be an architect. That was actually kind of the first thought. So it was, yeah, 5, 6, something like that. So that was, kind of really young. I honestly, I probably played with Legos till I was, teens easy. Unfortunately gave them away to someone else who probably used them, but I would definitely want them now.
I love it.
As I geez, continued to grow, I mean, I was always, loved being outside, loved riding my bike, hanging out with friends. Always had that knack though to like take stuff apart, put things back together, build things. There was one time I actually, this kind of ties in with GondekEDC and kind of the pocket knives and that kind of stuff. My parents were always my mom especially was very against like a pocket knife. Little boys,
Yeah.
you're gonna cut yourself. So the soon to be in the future engineer decided, cool, I'll just make my own. So I took a hacksaw blade, I broke it, I made like a duct tape little handle, it pivoted, it was beautiful. I was so proud of it. I went and showed my mom. I was like, Mom, look what I made. She took it from me. I was like, yeah, should have seen that one coming out. I was probably like 10 or something like that.
That's
But
how
I've
you knew
always
you
loved
were really proud of what you created because you didn't think twice about going to show your mom. You were just like, oh, wow, this is
exactly.
amazing. I'm showing mom.
Exactly. That was like my first thing. Like, oh, this is so cool. I got to show my mom. But yeah, I mean, I've always been like that, and eventually got to the point where I'm like, man, I should just try to make some real stuff, which was a couple of years ago when I actually started the side business, GondekEDC.
I love it. I love it. And you kind of made me think a little bit more in depth about Legos and how many architects out there got their start with Legos. You ever think that that's what you just made me think right now? It's like, the thousands of architects out there in the world existing right now, just living life as an architect. I'm like, hey, did you you happen to use Legos when you were a little kid? And I want to hear how many of them used to build the like massive like 6,000 piece Lego sets. Those are pretty
Oh
cool.
man,
They're pretty
those are
cool.
so cool. There's
We,
this Optimus Prime I see every time I take the kids to Target and go down the toy aisle. It's like $200. I'm like, oh, but I want it so bad. It
Ooh,
actually transforms.
that's crazy.
It's yeah, it's cool.
Hey, you know what? That my she's off camera right now, but my girlfriend's in here right now, and I'm over here like, that might be a fun activity to do together. It's like buy some Legos and build like a massive piece. So, we'll
Exactly.
we'll see if she's down for that in the future. But I love that, man. Did you grow up in Wisconsin, by the way? I didn't catch that if you mentioned that, but did you grow up in the
Uh,
state of Wisconsin?
I did not actually. So I grew up in Illinois. It's where my folks are, and actually my wife's parents were high school sweethearts. So we grew up in a kind of suburb about an hour or so out of Chicago called Naperville. I was there throughout high school, ended up going to school in Indiana at Purdue, and then bounced back to Illinois for a while. Ended up having the kids. We were great, pretty close to family, and ended up getting a job opportunity here in Wisconsin. And I laughed at them when they first told me. They're like, "Hey, Max, just come to school." I'm like, "No, I'm not leaving Illinois. You're crazy." But they actually talked me into coming up, and there's like a little water park. Brought the kids. We had a good time. Then we kind of liked it. It's a little slower. People are maybe a tad bit nicer. It's just a different mentality. So we really enjoyed it, and we still really enjoy it.
I love that. And outside of the water park, what are some other activities that are like popular to do in surrounding areas in Wisconsin? Because I'll be honest, boss, there's not too many people I've met that live in Wisconsin. So you got to tell me like what do like maybe let's say native Wisconsins love about their state? What are they really proud about from your experience being there thus far?
I mean, it's very outdoorsy. I tend to be pretty outdoorsy. My wife, not the most. Kids are kind of a blend. So we're as we've been here a few years now. We're kind of leaning more and more towards that. So really, anything that encompasses that, going to the lakes, camping, hiking. A lot of people hunt. It's not really my thing, but that's pretty popular up here as well. Dirt bikes, all those kind of things, outdoor stuff. There's a lot of room to kind of roll around.
Okay, I love it. I love it. And so let's transition from childhood Max into teenage Max. Were you a troublemaker? Did you have a little phase, or were you always kind of, level headed? How would you explain teenage Max, and how did you end up at Purdue University?
So, I mean, I don't think my parents would have a different, I guess, way of putting it. I would say I was pretty decent. I didn't get into too much trouble. Loved hanging out with my buddies. Been dating my wife since we were sophomores. So, we were together since then. Yeah. So, not a lot of shenanigans there as well. Yeah, I mean, high school was great. I loved it. Had a good time. So I played lacrosse in high school. I tried football. I was horrendous. I was like a C team backup. Like, oh man, the guy broke his leg. Like, let's get Max out. It's a game that no one cares about. So I ended up playing lacrosse in high school. I was halfway decent at it. So my stipulation for going to college was it has to be kind of close-ish. It has to have lacrosse and it has to have engineering. And that was really all I cared about. So Purdue kind of checked those boxes and I ended up going there.
I love it. And Purdue is actually popular for some of their sporting or their athletics that they have there. So can you talk about that? Were you into that while you were there? Did you ever go to any basketball games? Did you ever participate in some of the fanfare of Purdue University and some of the popularity they have there in terms of their basketball program?
Oh yeah. I mean, so freshman year, we're all for it. Just in college, this is great. You get that pass where you can go to everything, went to every football game, every basketball game. I always loved the basketball games because we had assigned seats, so you could just go, you sit where you going. It was nice. Kind of, I don't know, phased out as time progressed. Personally, I'm not a huge sports guy. I rarely watch, any sort of professional sports. I love going to games. Like I'll pay $12 for a beer, throw some peanuts on the ground. Like I love that. But like to watch on TV really isn't my thing. But no, I mean, we had a good time at school. We went pretty heavy, yeah, freshman year, going to all the games and stuff, and then just kind of trickled out as time progressed. School got pretty challenging. Part-time jobs, all that kind of good stuff too.
I love it. I love it. And that you made me crack up there because I'm like thinking it's like, all right, it's like when you feel like I'm not saying this is you, but when you feel like you have to take your kid on that experience to a college basketball game and you're like, all right, son, all right, daughter, here's your first college experience, and this is basketball game experience, and this is what you got to do. Take these peanuts, throw them on the ground, okay? Take this
Exactly.
popcorn, chuck it over there, spill your soda. All right. All right, we're leaving the game. But dad, it's only the first quarter. I know.
Yeah, like I don't care who wins. It's fine. We'll figure it out later.
We did it. We had the experience. Love it.
Exactly, exactly. Yes.
I
I'll probably
love it.
take my kids to something around here sooner than later. So yeah, they can get that experience too.
I love it. I love it. So, you finish university, you enter your professional career, um, you have children. So you go and you do these really impactful things that we, look at as impactful in society. Like you went to college, you completed that experience, you went and got a career, you got married. Like out of all of these things that are considered, you know, adult things to do, which one has been the most impactful or the most enjoyable? Like marriage, children, graduating college, starting to make real money in a career. Like, which one of these things has like really stood out as wow? When this happened, I felt really accomplished.
Yeah. I mean, it was, it was great getting that diploma at school. It was, I mean, to me, it was kind of one of those things where it's like, you just check that box. Like, yes, you go to school, you get the degree. I loved engineering, so it was an enjoyable time, but it wasn't like I don't know, like the most breathtaking, crazy thing in the world. I would say I mean, been with my wife for so many years when we got married, but just like that specific night of getting married, walking down the aisle, all that stuff, the first dances. I mean, that was very impactful. It's kind of like I mean, like our day-to-day life didn't change. We lived together before, and then she just got a different last name, and we still lived together. Everything was literally the same, but it was like a kind of a transition point, into that like adulthood for me, I would say. I mean, easily one of the best nights of my life. Kids, while of course very challenging at times, definitely has the high highs of just such a rewarding experience. I mean, like some of the things my kids do is just like wow. An example, they had a charity thing at school, and they got like enough gifts, they got if they donated enough toys, they got like a pizza party or something like that, and they had to get like 300. So I was like, okay, cool, I'll take you to Meyer, we'll go each buy a toy for charity. My oldest had like 20 bucks that she nickel and dime saved for like 6 months, one of those kind of things, and she wanted to use all of her own personal money to buy gifts for kids who didn't have toys. And we kind of explained the whole thing. We're relatively fortunate, we're very happy where we are, but not everyone's like that. And dude, like just melted my heart. So like that, I mean, like it's always the personal stuff that to me really brings that satisfaction. And really it's just why I do all the stuff I do.
I love that. I love that. That is very powerful. I can imagine how that could warm the heart of a parent for sure, especially as a girl dad for sure.
Oh
I
yeah,
love
dude.
that.
I was looking at my wife. I was like, "Did you hear that?" I was like, "Oh man, it was. Yeah, it was a good night. It was a really
Yeah,
good night."
that's beautiful. And there's two more things I kind of want to touch on in regards to children and being a girl dad. This phrase girl dad has kind of become popularized since the Kobe Bryant passed away a few years ago. I don't know where you first heard girl dad, but I definitely know a lot of my listeners kind of probably got exposed to that word or that phrase, or really being grateful for being a dad and really embracing being able to father a child that's a girl,
Mm-hmm.
right? Sorry, I know I don't mean to like emphasize that, but Kobe Bryant passing away, and him and his daughter, and him really having strong relationships with his daughters. I guess what I'm leading up to is like, how has that been? Maybe some challenges, maybe some things that have been really amazing, things that have been really exciting. Like, what makes you so passionate about being a girl dad that you have these signs up with your kids, behind your head? I've seen multiple t-shirt photos of you and t-shirts on your Instagram page with girl dad. Like, it's something you're really proud of. And the way you were just speaking about your children, I can tell there's a lot of love there. Not that there wouldn't be love there if it was a son too, but just talk about that experience in general, and how it's been thus far.
Yeah. So I personally have fantastic parents. Very loving mother and father. I got a pretty good sister as well. My dad worked and still does work a ton. You do what you got to do for the family, that kind of thing. A sacrifice I always am very proud that he did, and very honored that he did. But the con of that is, the time with the family. And, it's not like he was never around by any means, but he would work quite a bit. So one of the things I always really tried to put forward before we even had our first child was like, I want to be there as much as I can. Like, obviously you have responsibilities, things you have to do. So even before we knew it was a girl, boy, before we had the first one, that was always kind of in the forefront of my mind. When we did have our first daughter, I could have been a boy, could have been a girl. We didn't have any idea how to deal with anything, and you kind of figure out as you go. Um, when the twins came, and they were both girls as well, first thing I think my mother-in-law was like, "Oh, so you're gonna go for the boy for number 4?" I was like, "Nope, nope, not happening." I, as an engineer, I'm very calculated. We'll have the first kid. We'll wait approximately 2 years. We'll have the second kid. It'll be great. We'll be done. Family 4 fits nice in the car, and we get the buy one get one free, as I call it. Um, but going back to the girl dad aspect, to me, I don't know. I mean, I can't speak because I don't know if I had, sons, a mix of both. I don't know how it would be. I just want my kids to have a good time, have a good life, learn from any mistakes I've made, grow, develop, that kind of thing. And, if that means I'm playing pretty, pretty princess every once in a while, I'm playing pretty, pretty princess every once in a while. So, if I guess it doesn't make a huge difference whether that they're girls or boys. I mean, I do definitely embrace the fact that I'm girl dad, and I'm not going to be the kind of father that's like, you're going to go do sports and we're going to go do manly things and that kind of, manly things or
Right.
whatnot. I just, let my kids be their kids. And, if they want to make bracelets, and we make bracelets, if they want to go camping, we go camping, just kind of support them however I can.
I love that. I love that. My final question in regards to family, twins. How has it been different raising twins versus raising like, I mean, you only can really compare to the first 2 years until you had your twins, but
Yeah.
like versus raising one child versus raising twins, is there like communication tactics you have to use? Are there things where you have to like do certain things at the same time with the twins so that they're in cadence? What about like putting them to bed? Like how does that work? Is there any like strategy around that I don't know, parent I don't know, family, what are they called? People who like help people like with their newborns and stuff like that. Are there any recommendations in books or any podcasts you guys listen to preparing for twins? Or is there any strategies that you've had to implement because they're twins, if that makes sense?
Yeah, yeah. Oh geez. So my oldest when she was born was a horrendous sleeper. We used to do shifts between my wife and I. So like I would get like 2 hours, and like you're doing this like walking shenanigans, and you lay down for 45 minutes, and then like you ever so delicately put her in the crib, and she wakes up and you're like, oh, I've got to do 2 hours again. And then you're like, haha, not my 2 hours, and you give it to your wife and you go to bed. So like I mean that itself was very challenging with just one. When the twins came, they were actually, my wife's, 5 foot, nothing, 100 pounds. So she's quite tiny, and having two people grow inside of her was traumatic. So she was actually in the hospital at bed rest for the last month of her pregnancy. The twins came out a month early, and then they were in the hospital in the NICU for a month afterwards. So the delivery happened, we stayed for a day, and then we went home just to our normal oldest daughter, and the twins stayed there for a month. So it was a crazy experience. But what the hospital did is they got the twins in kind of a pretty good schedule, got all the nurses, they do their thing. So when the twins actually came home, I mean, we did our absolute best to follow it. I mean, we were like 8 o'clock feeding time, it's like, 6 o'clock nap two. So we were very regimented with that, and find that seemed to work well for us. I mean, when I talk to other people who have kids, it's very much, every kid's different. This kid's going to learn this thing quicker than this kid. This kid's going to be better at this than the other kid. But for us, what worked was, yeah, a very strict schedule. At nighttime, we had a child. That's what we did. I had my one daughter Avery, and my wife had our other daughter Olivia. So like you're sitting there sleeping, and you hear something, you're like, haha, not my kid, and then you just go back to bed. And then on the flip side, mine, like my kid would wake up, my kid would wake up, and you'd go take care of her. But yeah, it was definitely challenging with that. I think one of the things I would recommend, like if like someone was like, hey, we're thinking about having kids, and it honestly, one or two doesn't matter. My wife and I are very close. We're, best friends, all that good stuff. And I couldn't imagine doing this with something that was someone that was, you had a rocky relationship, you were struggling like that. Oh, we'll have a kid and we'll, build our relationship. Like, no way that would work. I mean, having young children has definitely been some of the most challenging, yet rewarding kind of experiences we both have.
Love
But
that.
yeah, I mean, embrace the sleep while you can would be my main goal too.
That's real.
Before the kids come, I always tell people to get some good rest.
I already know that's gonna be the tough thing for me. I care about my sleep so much. It's crazy. I start like flipping out and getting like anxiety when I already see that my night's gonna go longer than I expected to. I'm like, ah, snap. So
Yeah, oh, I'm the
it'll
same
be
way. We'll kick our friends out at like 9:30. I'm like, oh, it's kind of getting a little late.
yep.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I'm sure that'll be a fun experience for me. All right. All right, Max, and all right, listeners who didn't care about the whole family background. But listen, if you know about the Voices of Value show, it's important, for me to have conversations about, the background, the history that kind of led these business owners, these creatives, these entrepreneurs up to this point. So now, for what you guys have all been waiting for, let's jump into the business side of things, man. So, Max, can you kind of share the story of how Gondek, sorry, is it Gondek or
Yep,
Gond?
Gondek, you nailed it.
Perfect, got you. All right, of how Gondek EDC got started, and maybe how it's evolved over the years, and yeah, just however you want to answer that question. I want to start there.
Yeah, sure. So I am in my day job an engineer. I have been in manufacturing, specifically it's die casting, melt metal, put in big fancy mold, fancy parts come out. Sometimes you machine them, all sorts of stuff like that, but very hands-on, very kind of on the floor, problem solving, that kind of stuff. So I, at this point, have been in it for, I don't know, 10 going on 15 years. So I knew how to make stuff, parts, specifically metal things. In that job, I tended to carry at least a pocket knife with me, maybe like a multi-tool, tended to be a flashlight. So like my pockets started to get heavier and heavier of things that I would just use as I would walk on the floor, go inspect products. Little did I know there's a gigantic community called EDC Everyday Carry that like just loves this stuff. And I'm like, hey, I like this stuff. All these other people like this stuff. And it's this crazy deep rabbit hole where you can get, really fancy custom high-end things. You can get, very industrial grade stuff that's going to last forever. But regardless, I got, really into this, I don't know, maybe 5-6 years ago or so. So I kind of knew the industry well before I actually became, a business in the industry. The reason I actually started it is my wife started a little side business. When you have 3 small kids, why not? That's what you do. Where she would make these liners for like strollers and like wagons. So she's a really good sewer. So she would make these, really intricate things, and you would kind of go in there, kids spill stuff, diaper leaks, whatever. You can take the thing out, wash it, plop it back in. So she's, really good at it. She had a bunch of orders. She was doing work all the time, at this like 8 to 10 o'clock time frame when kids were sleeping. And I'm like, oh man, this is great. I'm going to catch up on all my Netflix. I'm going to start working out at night. Oh, this is awesome. I love life. And that was like a month or whatever. And I got super bored. And I've always really wanted to make something, have a business, whatever, just a side hustle, hobby, but I could never think of what I wanted to do. I knew it had to be something like tangible. I didn't want to start a website or a software company or anything of that nature. I mean, nothing against it. It's just like, I don't know. I like, to be able to hold stuff, to make things, get your hands dirty, that kind of stuff. So what ended up happening is I got bored. My wife was working out. I went through my whole Netflix queue and I needed to come up with something. So I, at the time, traveled a lot for work. And as anyone who travels knows, you can't, bring pocket knives, anything like that on there. So I got, used to drive to the airport, stick all the stuff in, the glove box, go through security, kind of come back. So what I kind of wanted to do was have something that I could bring with me when I would travel. So the idea itself, it's called like a pry bar. It's in essence, a pry tool, kind of scraper opener kind of thing. But I wanted to make one kind of based off of my favorite pocket knife, but I wanted to do it in a way where, I could travel with it. And the concern being you spend some money on some fancy little tool. TSA guy has a bad day, takes it from you. So like my little shtick with it was like, you know what, I'm going to make these. I want some. I'm going to, see if anyone else wants some. And my thing was like, you know what? If the TSA takes yours, I'll replace it. I'll just give you a new one. Like you never have to worry about it. So it was kind of like I knew that since I made them, I could just have, as many as I could make. But I wanted other people to not have to worry about that as they went through security. So that was kind of like my first thing I wanted to make. I don't have gigantic CNC machines. I don't have all that stuff in my house. So for the initial run, I ended up finding, some website online, machine shop, had them, kind of work through them to make the product. And while I was making it, I was like, I'm kind of sitting there bored, like, what can I do? It's like a month lead time. So my wife actually started to teach me how to sew. So like, what you would think of like your grandpa's handkerchief, in the everyday carry community, they're quite popular where like it's a smaller, maybe like 7 by 7 inch handkerchief, usually like a microfiber backed. So she was like, hey, I can teach you how to make this. It's literally a square. Like you can sew a square, Max. I was like, I can't sew a square. And she ended up teaching me. So like that, I kind of did that to fill the time. My naive me, I'm like, oh, you know what? I'm going to make this thing. I'm going to sell so many of these. Like, man, I should probably just like quit my job now. This is going to be so easy. I'm going to be an entrepreneur. Yeah, it definitely didn't work like that. I'm very fortunate. We sold some. The business got like some rolling, got some speed. But yeah, I mean, it was a trickle to start for sure, 100%. But I loved it.
I love it. I love it, man. That's a great start. I kind of want to ask you about something you said at the beginning, which is
Mhm.
the short phrase or the acronym EDC. I guess my question is, how did you find out about a community that's so niche? Is it like talked about in specific industries? So you were hearing about this community at work? Were you on, I know that I found you on Reddit. So were you just utilizing that social platform and happened to come across it? Like what what exactly happened, if you can think back to that moment where you like got on the internet and found out about this community? Do you remember like what you typed in or how you came across it?
I mean, I'm pretty, because Reddit is, I believe, how I found it. I've been on Reddit for, I don't know, decade or so. Awesome, awesome, horrible stuff. There's great things. It's really everything in between. Try to stick to the good stuff. But yeah, I'm pretty, like, I don't remember exactly, but there was some time where like I carried all the stuff. Like I'm talking to my coworkers about the stuff. And then somehow it just linked. I'm pretty sure I just stumbled across it. Someone recommended it, like, hey, check out it's like the subreddits REDC. And I'm like, oh, okay, cool. And I'm like, there's just people do this. Like it's a thing. And then they take pictures of it and they think it's cool and they trade stuff. So yeah, I mean, being a part of that as just a hobby, just something that I like to do and something I really enjoyed, years before I started the business, I think was really helpful for me. I'm working on something that I love, but I also am relatively knowledgeable about the industry, how it works, some of the trends with it. So I think all that kind of helped come together. But I think if I'm not 100% sure, but if I had to guess, I'm pretty sure it's Reddit that got me to that actual terminology EDC for everyday carry.
I love it. And you mentioned the pry bars, you mentioned the hanks and how those got integrated into the business. But talk about knives. When did knives become a part of it? I know you talked about as a young bull having a fascination with pocket knives, but not being allowed to have them around the house. So I kind of understand where it stemmed from and why you might have wanted to integrate it. But at what point in the business did you add that in? Was that part of the initial product line? And follow up question to that. Out of the products we mentioned and also the custom side of things, what's like your most popular go to? Like, what's the most popular purchase when somebody comes to your guys' website or to your Instagram page and they're like, we wanna invest our money with you guys?
Gotcha. Okay. So yeah, so the pry bar was the first thing. I expected when I got into the business that I would just make metal stuff. I was like, metal stuff's cool. It's literally what I do for my day job. I thought, maybe, hey, the sewing, maybe it's a little feminine. I don't want to get into it, but it's something to kind of pass the time. Um, I tend to make stuff that I want. So like I'll think of something, I'm like, I want that thing, and then I'll make it. So I did that a couple times, and it got to a point where I'm like, I want a knife that looks like this. Because I've always carried pocket knives. I just wanted a specific kind. So I'm like, okay, I'll make it. And that, I mean, maybe was 6 months, a year into doing the business. It started in 2020 for kind of a time frame reference. I've only been doing it for about 3 years. But yeah, about a year in, I was like, hey, I think I'm gonna make a knife. So, I went through the whole process, had to figure out, the heat treat stuff and how all these things work. And, how to sharpen it, and just all these connections I made throughout that process, and different skill sets I've learned and talking with different people was really fun. Kind of for your follow-up question and kind of how the business has evolved is I've found that, at least for us, the metal stuff we make, while relatively popular, is pales in comparison to anything that we make by hand sewing. To put it in comparison, all the metal stuff we make, probably 50 to 75% of it we use like local machine shops to help us with, and the rest we'll do by hand grinders, that kind of thing. All the fabric related items we make 100% ourselves. So you're sitting right next to me. I have a sewing machine. My wife has 2 sewing machines over there. We've gone a long ways from just making a square handkerchief. So in 2022, we really pivoted the business and pushed towards more of the fabric related items. We have more control over them. We make them ourselves. We can pivot and make things and follow trends a lot quicker. And that leads to really where our most popular items are. If you went from like the quantity of something sold, our handkerchiefs pale in comparison to everything else. We call it a Hank of the Month Club. So it's like a subscription membership where you get a hank every month. You don't know what it is. I make it for that 1 month. We send them out, never send them again. We ship 150 or so right now, which for us is awesome, and we're sitting there sewing all the time trying to make them. But just in sheer volume compared to any of the metal stuff, it's way larger. Our pouches, whether in like a wallet form or anything else, is probably like a close second. That was kind of one of the trends definitely last year in the community. And, it's something that I was like, I want to make it just like this. So I made it just like that, and it seemed like other people liked it as well, which has been really nice.
So I want to kind of dive in again, freestyling here,
I
just
love
off
it. I
of
love it.
off of what you just said there. Like, what have been, some unique things you guys have done in the business that, are or part of the evolution process. You just introduced to the audience the subscription with the handkerchiefs that you were mentioning. You said Hank of the Month.
Hank of the Month Club, the Hot MC is what we call it.
The hot MC. I love that. That's fire. So you know, obviously you guys probably didn't have that if as soon as you launched in 2020. I would assume not.
Oh,
Um,
geez, no, no.
yeah. So like, is there anything else, or are there other things that you guys have tried in order to, you know, build community, help with just improving the business and increasing, you know, profits, revenue, whatever, from the business side of things,
Yeah.
because and the reason I go like this is because I understand that you really respect the craft and that you really actually enjoy it, and that it turned into a business, but it started as something that was a hobby and you really enjoy doing it. So I know I'm sure you guys want the business to grow, but I also know that you really care about it. It's not all about the money. So that's why I did that little thing. But I do want to hear a little bit about the business side and areas that you've pivoted, things you've added in to try to make the business better or more efficient. Feel free to
Mhm.
share anything that comes to mind.
Yeah. So I think, and that's just kind of like what goes with the pivot to the fabric related items. As someone who's I'm a manufacturing engineer, in essence by trade, and, we'll make parts for automotive components, and we'll make 1 million of them a year. And if you can shave, 1/10 of a second off of something, or save 2 ounces on this component, like them, it's gigantic dollar signs of what I would help save our, my day job, the business, I actually work for. I try to keep that mentality into GondekEDC as well. So that really tables with a lot of the things that we have full control over in manufacturing, which in our case is all the soft goods, pouches, tanks, that kind of thing. We're not the first person to probably make any of the items that we do make, but we try to make them in a way where we can make a really good quality product and do it like as economically as possible. So, we always kind of play the like dollar per hour game. How many of these handkerchiefs can I make per hour? So I can, justify my time for it, but I can also charge something that's reasonable. Kind of put in comparison, if you look across the board, it's probably like a normal handkerchief in a similar style to what we make is probably like 18, maybe $20 or so. We charge $10 for almost all of the ones we make. And we do it in a way that I can just crank these things out super fast and as fast as I can while still maintaining quality and all that kind of good stuff. But it just allows us to have, just reasonable prices. I think that's one of the big things we push for, and one of the reasons that we've been, smallly successful in our small business. it also does go to kind of that, profit side of things. I was joking with my wife yesterday. We were watching Shark Tank, and these, love that show, by the way. And these sharks are like trying to give, hundreds of thousands of dollars to this company that's growing and growing, and they're spending and spending, and they aren't profitable. And I'm like, it just doesn't make sense to me as like an engineer. It's like, why would you want to buy part of a business that doesn't make any money? And obviously they're smarter than I am, and they'll probably sell it for who knows how much in the future. But for us, we want to. I've always wanted to be profitable. I don't want to lose money doing what I'm doing, because I want to continue to grow. I like having a little bit of working capital to try new things, buy new products. But when probably in the past year or so, when the idea or the slight potential of quitting my day job maybe one day in the future has come up, that's really the strive for the profitability. I don't, by all means, I don't need to have this fancy car or anything of that nature, but if I can, and my wife and I can support our family with the side business, and it becomes the main business, that to me is really the main goal. I'd love to be able to work at home and do all that kind of stuff. So that's really what we're striving for with profit, and why we try to push so hard to be as economic in our manufacturing, but still provide good quality, and really just kind of put all those pieces together.
I love it. I love it.
It's kind of a. Oh, go ahead.
No. You go ahead. Go ahead.
I was going to say, I mean, that kind of goes with the pivot that we've had. I mean, we still make metal stuff. I personally love that kind of stuff, so I'm always just going to do it because I like to. But from a business side of things, it doesn't make as much sense for us to go design a new pry tool. We've tried to even take as much of that we would go outside for with machine shops, and try to figure out ways to do it more in house with grinding belts and hand grinders and that kind of thing. And with that, we're able to take the product that would be generally more expensive. We can make it a little bit lower, but then we also make a little bit more off of it. So it tends to be this win-win. And again, I like getting my hands dirty. I like building stuff. So it's fun to do for me.
I love it. I love it. And I want to ask, you kind of mentioned that, following trends and keeping up with the trends in the space help inspire some ideas of what to create. I kind of want to ask, a two-part question. Number one, how do you keep up with trends? Is it through Reddit and watching the community? Is it through Twitter hashtags? Is it through asking friends who are in the space? Like, how do you keep up with the trends? And then a follow-up thing is, outside of keeping up with trends, what else kind of inspires ideas of new things you want to try inside the business?
Gotcha. Okay. So yeah, like since I've been in the industry or been excited about it for so long, I mean, Reddit was probably like my main source. Reddit, REDC, there's, subreddits for, trading knives and other sorts of gear. So I've been in that stuff for a long time. The communities on like Reddit versus the community on Instagram versus the community on any other, software platform, tends to be different. So they do have different trends. They do have different things they look into. I truthfully, I didn't even want to get into social media. I've never been a huge fan of it. And my wife was like, Max, if you start a business, you have to have an Instagram. I was like, I don't want to have an Instagram. That's stupid. She's like, you got to have an Instagram. I was like, fine, I'll make an Instagram. And now, honestly, I truly enjoy it. It's fun chatting with people. I've met so many cool people there. So I would say that a lot of it is probably just through straight social media, Instagram, Facebook, Reddit a lot, and then, those kind of places is where I'm kind of learning what people are carrying, new items out there. By all means, my friends, like I'm the guy. I'm the guy that they get their trends from. Like, hey Max, I need a flashlight that can light paper on fire. I'm like, I got you. Come over here. Like, that kind of thing.
That sounds amazing. I've never seen that before, but that sounds cool.
So yeah, I mean, I bought a buddy Leatherman for his birthday. Like I'm always the one trying to like slowly push people into it. I got my dad to start carrying a pocket knife. So yeah, I'm definitely the one pushing it on to the people that I deal with, in my day-to-day life. And I just try to get as much information, from people on the outside.
I love that.
As for new products, I really just kind of make stuff that I want or I think would be kind of cool to have. That's always been really my mentality. I mean, I really can't think of a product that we've made at some time that I didn't personally want to have for some reason. So like I'll run into a problem of some sort. Like the reason I came up with the kind of we call it the Ranger wallet, but it's like a small pouch. It's got elastic on the side. You can put a pen in, kind of a small simple wallet. I wanted to carry a pen every day with me, and I'm like running out of pocket spaces. I'm like, I don't know where to put this thing. And at that same time frame, we had started to make a couple pouches, and I'm like, I like pouches. They seem to be kind of cool. People like pouches. I want to carry a pen easily. So I took a piece of elastic, I folded it, and I just sewed it into the side. And I was like, and that was one of our products. And it's just, I mean, it's just really solving problems is probably how we come up with the majority of them. And just trying to think as much as we can out of the boxes. We're just going through our day-to-day lives. Wife and I are getting coffee, and we're like, oh man, it'd be cool. She came up with it. She's like, we have like small hanks. What if we just make big hanks? I was like, yeah, that'd be really handy. That's like, it's like, I've made so many of these. How have we not thought of this? So we just we started that recently. It's really just what can we do to make our lives better, problems that come up in the industry. We love taking like just feedback from customers. Customers are just people in general. I tend to think that like you can't achieve perfection in anything. You can always get better in anything. Especially something that I've only been doing for a couple of years. So I'm like, please, like I love positive feedback, but if someone's going to tell me, hey, this thing was kind of tight, this didn't hold up as well as I thought it would, it's like we're immediately pivoting on those kind of things. There was an example. I made a small organizer for kind of a buddy online, sent it to him. He ended up tearing the stitches out. And I'm like, oh man. So I told my wife, like, this is exactly what happened. She's like, duh, you can't do that. You got to go up and come back down. And it was like, it's simple stuff like that we're always just really building on the products we have to just try to make them better.
I
So
love that.
a lot of customer feedback to kind of push us forward, a lot of just solving personal problems, I mean, not really problems. How do I carry a pen with me every day? But, small everyday carry problems that we run into.
I love that. I love that. And you mentioned, that your wife had started a business, and now in the past few years she's kind of joined in on what you have going on. How is that when she came in, what is she helping with? How's that been in terms of the relationship? I know a lot of people talk about how tough it can be being in a partnership and then also being in business together. So could you speak to being in business with your partner, how that's been going for you, maybe some strategies
Mhm.
you guys use to be able to like explore and have healthy conversations about the business, but then also be able to step outside of that and have other conversations about family and things of that nature?
Yeah, sure. So as I said before, my wife started a business even before I did, and she technically is like finishing it up right now. So we've, had probably over the course of the last year, GondekEDC has, it's reasonably profitable. I've kind of got things, the business side of things on cruise control. Like I know how to, pay all the taxes and figure out all those silly business things that no one really wants to do. Well, it turns out she hates those. She hates all of that stuff. She wants to come up with a cool idea, make the cool thing, maybe once or twice, and then have people buy it. And then, she's good at fulfilling stuff. She's great at working on it, but she doesn't want to be an assembly line. She doesn't want to be, a full-time seamstress, anything like that. So, I keep telling her, I'm like, honey, we GondekEDC, like we're good. Like we make money. We've got this business here. Like I can take care of all the dollars and cents. I love spreadsheets. Like spreadsheets are cool to me. I know you hate them. So like, let me do that stuff. Come join GondekEDC. And the idea and what we've been doing is really she's been kind of leading a lot of the marketing side of things, helping with videos, ideas. I am a decent talker, a horrendous writer, horrible speller, so she helps with all that kind of stuff. And she is by far means leaps and bounds ahead of me in skill sets for sewing and making new projects. So any of those things, honestly, anything that I've made even before she jumped in, like officially, I guess you could say, I'd always be like, I needed like the pouches. I was like, I need to make a pouch. How do I make this? Like, and she showed me, we walked through it together. She, kind of helped me on the first couple of them. I would show her and she'd tell me what I was doing wrong. So she loves that kind of stuff. So, we've really embraced that and had her help with, creating new products, helping to make the things we make better, especially on the sewing side, the marketing side of things. So, it's been really nice. We get, I mean, obviously we fight like anyone does, disagreements, arguments, but we get along really well. I mean, like the whole, like, she's my best friend, like it's a truth. There's no one I'd rather hang out with. So it's never really been an issue with GondekEDC. It's as of now, it's a side business that brings in enough income that's, it's definitely noticeable, but it's not like if I don't sell 200 handkerchiefs this month, we're living on the streets. There really isn't the pressure behind it. It's honestly true. It's one of the things I'm kind of nervous about if it ever became a full-time gig is would it lose that fun? Because like right now, like I can take huge risks, I can take huge gambles, or I can walk away literally tomorrow and whatever, it's just a side biz that I would close. Whereas, if it was your sole income, she doesn't have a normal day job. So if I quit my day job and we just had this, it would be a lot of pressure on it. So maybe it'd be different. I don't know. Time will tell. But I really don't think it would. I think we have a really good relationship. I think we can really balance out, times we talk about business, and times we don't. I probably talk about it a little bit more than she would like, but we seem to, compromise it on areas we can.
I love it. I love it. And I wanted to ask you, you were mentioning some of the more non-enjoyable sides of creating a business or managing a business. I was wondering if you could share maybe is there any software or tools or recommendations you have for other small business owners out there that have been really useful to you when it comes to taxes, when it comes to managing your balance sheet or your P&L, whatever you want to use. I know whatever there's a different statements you can use, but just managing the money that's coming and going, like, what are maybe some tips, tools, or software that you use or you found helpful that other small business owners listening right now might also be able to put into their business and benefit from?
Gotcha. So for like our family, even for any, side joke that my wife was the CEO and I was the CFO. So she would decide what she wanted to do, and then I would decide or help figure out how we could make it happen. I've always, it's not like joy money. Like I never want to be an accountant, but like that stuff doesn't bother me at all. It kind of fascinates me a little bit to some extent. So I don't mind, but like, seeing the graphs, the profit loss, that thing. When I started it, I started just straight up Excel. I'm an engineer. That's what we use. You have a problem, you open Excel up. So I started with about Excel, and then I moved to QuickBooks. I was like, I'm a business now. I need QuickBooks. And truthfully, trying to link all the accounts, get it all in there, and open it all the time, erase reoccurring things that it was a kind of a pain. So I went back. Technically, it's not even Excel; it's Google Sheets. So we heavily use that just to, I know, to track everything.
Got to make it work how you want
it's
to make it
honestly,
work.
it's pretty simple. I mean, we don't. It's not like we have any major overhead. I'm literally in my house, in my house office. So any expense I put it in there. We use PayPal and Stripe for payment receive, so they're pretty good. I can spit out reports. Those two together, and you figure it out. We run our business in like the I guess the cash way as opposed to the fancy way that you Shark Tank. So simple. I mean, at least for us, bank account stays at this. Every month we try to see where we have our profits, where where we were struggling, if we are, what were kind of our wins. Track what specific products we use and sell the most. We use Wix for hosting our website, for the actual orders itself. They're really good as well. We really haven't had any issues with it. But yeah, other than Wix, PayPal, and Stripe, I mean, those are the main softwares we use. I think my recommendation for it, though, just like with the said before, everyone is someone better than you. Get an accountant. Like that was easily the best, money we spend every year. At first, I didn't know that you had to file Wisconsin sales tax, so they had to tell me how to do that, and then I started paying that tax. Then Uncle Sam wanted his cut, and I was like, "Whoa, he wants a lot!" So now I got to do the quarterly payment, and all stuff is super fun, necessary. So yeah, we've got an accountant that we use. It's not like I talk to him very often, but it's nice to be able to just ask a quick question. Tax time comes around, which is about now. Able to do everything and be like, hey, what can I do more efficiently? What can I do to try to decrease the burden? Technically, we are just like a sole proprietor business. So, we're kind of toying at that, like, do we become an S Corp and all these other questions. And these are things that I plan on asking him in about a month when we talk again, we start going through the taxes. So really simple Excel spreadsheet stuff, and just having someone who's better at it than me that can help me out is really what we do to stay successful.
I love it. I love it. You hear that, ladies and gentlemen? They're killing it. Small business, wife and husband, Google Sheets, Wix, and an occasional conversation with an accountant, and you can make it happen. I love
Yeah.
it. I love it. I love it. You guys are doing a great job. I love the energy that you're putting out there in regards to the love that you have not only for your wife but for your kids. I love the passion and the interest and the intrigue you get from the business that you're working in. And I think all of those, components that I just mentioned are going to be extremely valuable as you guys continue to grow as a business. So I'm really excited to see where you guys go. And I never even heard about Everyday Carry Space until being on Reddit, seeing your page, going to your Instagram page, looking into it. So now it's a new thing to dabble in when I'm at work. Just pull up, check out the website, see what other interesting things are going on in the space. So I do want to ask you two final questions. One in regards to the business, and then one which is a question we ask our guests, every single guest at the end of each show. So the question in regards to the business is, products like knives, hanks, pry bars, some of the custom pieces you create. For somebody who might be a total novice to the space, who maybe never saw a use in a pocket knife or doesn't know what a pry bar is, like maybe try to explain to a complete novice out there the utility of some of the products you guys sell for somebody like them. Or maybe there is no utility, but you get what I'm trying to ask. Like how can
Yeah.
someone, like, what is a pry bar? What do people use that for? Pocket knives outside of like hunting, what type of people might be interested in that type of product? Hanks, what are some different ways that you can put that to use? Just I just want you to be able to like share with the world what are some different ways that your products could be of use to them.
Yeah, no, of course. I mean, what I like big picture when people ask that kind of stuff, I always recommend like there's like most inexpensive but still halfway decently built stuff. And I'm like, you just buy this thing, stick it in your pocket, try it out for a little bit. There's a specific knife I always have at least one of. I keep home that I literally just give to people. Like, you carry a pocket knife? I'm like, take this, carry it for like 2 weeks, and just let me know what you do. I mean, with the knife, like I'll use multiple times every day. My daughter came up to me a couple hours ago and was like, "Dad, there's a string on my blanket. Can you cut it off?" And I'm like, "Okay," and I just cut it off. I mean, it's as silly as stuff like that. Open this package. Hey, this Amazon box came in. Hey, we're at the store, Dad. I want a pepper. Can you cut this for me? I mean, it's like that kind of stuff comes up all the time. But everyone's different, and I feel like with these in general, something that I find incredibly useful and a lot of utility, someone else might be like, "That's silly. I never need something like that." I always carry like we don't make any, maybe one day, but I probably use that the most. Kids lose stuff under the couch. Need to go to the weird spot in the basement. Kid has a boo-boo. I mean, a lot of this stuff for me revolves around children. But I've been using them before. I use them at work a lot as well, looking at defects in specific products. The handkerchiefs, I use that personally a lot, cleaning up small messes. I clean my glasses. Here in Wisconsin, winters are very salty. They're gross. I use it all the time to close little cameras on my car. Otherwise, you can't see through them. So, stuff like that. Again, use it all the time for those kind of things. The wallet's pretty self-explanatory. I think that's probably one of the most universal of it. I just kind of tailored mine to kind of meet my specific needs. And, thankfully, a lot of people, like that as well. The pry bar, so when someone starts carrying a knife for a while, you inevitably run into that situation where this one random screw's a little loose, or like I got this battery stuck in this thing, and you're like, well, I got a knife. It's kind of like a lever. Stick it in there, and you. one of my most precious pieces of gear I have. It's a Leatherman Skeletool. It's a multi-tool, got a small knife in it, screwdriver, that kind of thing. I've pulled my kids' teeth out with it. It's we've got memories. It's one of those things I'll keep forever. But this was way, way back in the day when I first got it. And I remember I had a battery stuck in a remote. I'm like, I got a knife. So I tried to pull it out and I chipped a blade. I was so myself. And it's stuff like that where people tend to start to carry the pry bar. In the community, the Hank, the pry bar stuff is a little, call it contentious. Like, that's stupid, don't need it. And I'm like, I always have it, I gotta wear it and have it. And that's kind of where I go with, it's everyone's got their own things they do. Everyone's got their own jobs, their own house. Do you have a lot of projects that you're working on? So it kind of depends on the person. If someone was like, hey, I think this is cool, but I don't know what to do all, I would recommend, as long as laws apply, get a very inexpensive pocket knife and just carry it around for a little bit. And that always seems to be the biggest, the best way. And I guess I apologize to your girlfriend for you now browsing our EDC, and pretty soon you'll have cases of stuff. And you're like, oh yeah, I got all these crazy things. But I've gotten multiple friends, people into it, and it starts life, and then I'm like, oh, dude, hey, here's a handkerchief. I give them out all the time to friends and stuff, and just use this. Maybe you need to grab something, use it for this, grab something that's hot, and they kind of carry that, and then the doors start to open, and you kind of you run into problems in your day-to-day life, and you're like, how could I just make it easier on myself? It's not life or death. It's not stuff you generally need to have. But it just makes your life a little bit easier, and that's kind of what at least my mentality of it is.
I love it. I love it. That's amazing. Man, Max, I want to say thank you so much for, taking time out to not only hop on the show and share your story, but stay up late when you could be asleep, resting to be able to be an amazing father, a hard worker, and business owner tomorrow. So I really appreciate your time today. I enjoyed this conversation. Your energy oozes through the Zoom, so I appreciate that as well. Keep it going.
Of course.
But our final question for today, man, is it's your last day on earth. You've lived a long life. You're 140 years old. You've been able to raise your children, be able to kick it with your grandchildren, been able to have an amazing relationship with your wife, build an awesome business, continue to grow it, be healthy, have fun, travel, do all the amazing things. But it's your last day. You're sitting in a chair, and your great, 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 great grandkids are sitting at your feet, and they're like, great, 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 great grandpa, give me one piece of advice on how to live a good life. What are you going to tell them?
Oh boy. Geez. It's like, if I'm thinking about it, I kind of, I'm cheating, and I can kind of think of two that really stand out, and they kind of go hand in hand, at least for me. Like, the main one is just try to be happy. Life is short, in the grand scheme of things. Even if you are lucky enough to live to 140 and have great, great, great grandchildren, still it's a blip in the cosmos. So, just enjoy every day you can. But I think with that, especially with me, is just, really be with friends and family. All the business stuff, work, all that stuff's great. It's a necessary, kind of means. But, none of it matters if you don't have a good support system, a good family, spouse, kids, whatever, to be with and really enjoy it with. So I guess be happy with family and friends is probably, if you put the two together. I'm going to kind of cheat there.
I love it. I love it. Max Gondek, share with the people where they can find more about GondekEDC, how they can support you guys, website, email, Instagram. Go ahead and share it, plug it in there. And, any listeners, make sure you guys go check him out after he plugs this in. Try to tap into the community, see if there's something you can find that's interesting on their website, and purchase something, run it up. But go ahead, plug your social accounts, plug your website before we sign out of here today.
Cool. So yeah, best place for a lot of info on us is our website. So it's just GondekEDC, GondekEDC.com. So that's where we got really all of our products, how you buy everything, information on all the products. If you want to kind of just see what we do, we're pretty active on Instagram. So it's just whatever at GondekEDC. So I love posting goofy stuff in our stories, videos, things we're working on. So I tend to use that as kind of like the view into kind of like the day-to-day operations, I guess, for people to look in. If you got a specific question, feel free to, shoot us a message on that, or you can shoot us an email at info@GondekEDC.com. Love feedback, questions, comments, really anything. So, I'm an open book. I always tell people that. So love hearing from people, love hearing questions, suggestions, really anything.
I love it. I love it. Max, thank you so much for your time today. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you guys for listening to yet another episode of the Voices of Value podcast. Make sure you always support our guests and then come support the podcast, as that is the only way we can grow. This is your host, Kyle Stutzer, signing out. Salute.